Hello everybody, welcome to the Driver Trainer channel. I'm glad you can join us today. Today's topic is something you definitely want to pay close attention to, because today we're going to talk about collision scams. I'm sure many of you have heard of collision scams. Maybe you were the victim of a collision scam at one time, or you're just like me, you've heard of collision scams happening to other people, and people tell you about their horror story of what they went through. This is definitely a topic that drivers never expect until it happens to them. While most collisions are quote-unquote accidental, and we'll talk about that in a later video, but there are situations where collisions are intentionally staged, and the purpose of that is to commit insurance fraud. Knowing what to look for can help you avoid becoming a target of these staged collisions. So what is a collision scam? A collision scam is basically a scam involving a deliberate cause or manipulated crash. It's often done to collect insurance payouts, fake injuries, or repair claims. It's also intentionally designed to make the innocent driver look like that person is at fault instead of the scammer. Now, these scams are planned to create confusion, and the goal is often money through insurance claims, and generally your insurance, or injury settlements. So what are the common types of scams that occur out there? The most common type of scam collision is what's called a sudden stop, or some people will call it a swoop-and-stop. And what that entails is a driver pulls right in front of you unexpectedly and then does a hard brake. And as a result of that, they're hoping that you're close enough that you cannot stop in time and hopefully rear end them. In other words, they create a fake situation as if you were following too closely. How about a wave-in scam? A wave-in scam is where somebody waves you in saying that it's clear to merge or turn or what have you, and then come to find out it wasn't clear and you have a collision. Then afterwards, that person denies waving you in. Now, let me throw this out to you. A hand gesture doesn't remove responsibility. So you always want to verify if it's actually safe. Don't just take someone's word for it. And I want to throw this out as well. I do want to warn you against waving anybody in or waving anyone on. Even though you might do it to be courteous, that could actually come back to bite you if something were to occur. Or same with flashing the high beams or the headlights to indicate to somebody it's safe to lane change. So if you're in the right lane, somebody's passing you on the left, and then they put their turn signal on, and you think, okay, yeah, he's got some clearance, let me flash him to come on in, especially larger trucks. And I know truckers do it to other truckers all the time. And those of you who are truck drivers, if you look at the policies of your companies, if you're company drivers, generally your handbook will say, and your safety manager will tell you this, to never flash anyone in. And I'm going to say the same thing to everybody. Don't wave anybody in, don't flash your headlights at anybody to come in, because what happens is, like especially in the lane change scenario, you have somebody that passes you, especially a truck, you flash him, hey, it's safe to come on in, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you have this guy passing you at an astronomically high rate of speed, like let's say triple digits, and he does this whip on in movement so quick, you can't even believe your own eyes, and that guy is lane changing and then strikes him. You can actually be blamed for that. So this is why it's strongly discouraged to wave anybody in or to signal anyone in. Now here's another popular one that most of you have heard, and it's the staged backing collision. What happens is you're stopped at a traffic intersection, maybe it's a red light or a stop sign. You're stopped behind this person. All of a sudden, the guy in front of you puts it in reverse and boom, right into your bumper. And then he claims that you rear-ended him. Now, I've had a few people tell me stories like that. In fact, one person told me where that happened to her, and come to find out when the police showed up, lo and behold, this was the guy's second rodeo. So at this point, he was issued the ticket because it was the same story that she gave that the other driver gave on the previous collision. This guy ended up getting the ticket, luckily, not her, because long story short, boy cried wolf a few too many times. So in this situation, this lady did get lucky. How about forced merges or side swipes? Sometimes it's vehicles that hang in blind spots or accelerates into your merge path, and you always want to be checking your mirrors whenever you do lane changes and merges to make sure you can safely enter. And here's another factor with these forced merges or side swipes. There are times where people will linger alongside of you in a different lane. Then they'll strike you on the side and then say you drifted, because this happened to a truck driver once where he was driving down the road. Supposedly he was in his lane. That's how the story went. And these people sideswiped into him. However, the people in the other vehicle claimed the opposite, that the truck driver was not maintaining his lane and hit them, and had these supposed witnesses testify to it. And where these witnesses came from, who knows? But of course, that was their alibi, was their supposed witnesses. The truck driver, on the other hand, had one alibi of a witness. You want to guess what that was? That's right. He had a forward-facing camera that held up his alibi of him staying straight in his lane. The video showed that, and the other people ended up getting the citation for the collision. And I don't know the whole story because I've heard this secondhand, so I don't know what happened to the so-called witnesses. I would hope they were criminally charged for perjury. Now here's a new scam that's been occurring lately. Now this one you may or may not have heard of. This is fairly new. The way it goes is you're driving down the road. Let's say you're in the right lane. Here comes a vehicle that lane changes in front of you, and then another vehicle comes in front of him, stops suddenly. He stops in time. You end up hitting him. And this is happening more often because of forward-facing cameras. So in this situation, they can put the blame on the other guy. The other guy drives away because he never gets hit. And then the way they look at it is, when they give their alibi to the police, they will say, somebody was in front of me, because once the video evidence comes out, that vehicle in front can say, but this person brake checked me. I had no choice to stop. I just innocently lane changed. And then they're hoping that person ends up getting the citation by default, because they see it as the law is written, that the person just by default gets the citation for the rear end collision. Now here's the problem with that. If I were a police officer and I reviewed video footage of a collision that occurred like that, I would have to say that that person is still at fault, the one that came in front of you, because of the fact that he still lane changed very close in front of you when you're supposed to be further up ahead before you make a lane change. You never want to make close range lane changes like that in the first place. And this is also why I said in the previous videos that you need to have your turn signal on for a couple seconds before you start moving over. That way the person behind you has a fair advantage to know that you are clearly lane changing, and then can adjust accordingly. And then if for some reason he doesn't adjust, then of course that's on him if he does strike you, if something like that were to happen. Because obviously there are collisions that may happen like that that are not staged, but if you are coming in that quick, that's a problem. And we do not want to come in that quick on a lane change. But yet that is a scam that is occurring that you want to be on the lookout for. What are some warning signs to watch out for to put you on notice so you can hopefully avoid collisions like this? While this is not the absolute, this is guaranteed prevention, these are some areas you can look for in order to at least mitigate your risk as much as possible. You want to look for vehicles following unexpectedly. You want to look for vehicles following unusually close, then passing aggressively. Usually somebody pulling those scams are going to start somewhere. If you're the first contestant to be victimized in this, you may not catch this right away. But if you're second, third, fourth, and so on down the line, this is a pattern you want to look for, so you can pretty much expect he is trying to pull a scam. That way you're prepared for it and hopefully not be his next contestant. How about cars with multiple occupants watching your reaction? Usually the occupants are staged like that. Now, I'm not saying every vehicle with occupants is a red flag, but when you have occupants that look out of the ordinary, especially when they're looking out the window to see how people are reacting and paying attention to other vehicles, because usually occupants in a vehicle aren't out there, oh, what's going on there? Like looking at you or looking at this guy. No, most of the time they're usually chatting with their buddies. Hey, what's going on? Yeah. Or they're just playing on their phones. You also want to be on the lookout for drivers motioning you into traffic when conditions don't look right. And like I said before, don't rely on someone motioning you in to be the end-all be-all. And also refrain from motioning people in yourself. So don't ever do that. And if somebody's motioning you to make a move, make sure you're doing your due diligence to make sure it's clear, because it is your responsibility at the end of the day. You also want to be on the lookout for vehicles who are stopping suddenly for no clear reason. If there's no reason for anybody to stop, why are they stopping suddenly? Or here's one that relates to parking lots. People who are repeatedly circling parking lots or have unusual positions in a parking lot. You want to watch out for stuff like that, because we've seen the videos online and on the news where somebody does that maneuvers and bashes around and so forth. You also want to watch for people who stage themselves so when you're backing out, they hope you'll back into their path so they can collide into you and have a collision. That's why I said in the previous video, when you're parking in a parking lot, I always advise finding the spot, if possible, where there's two spots head to head together where you can pull straight ahead. That way when you're done, you're ready to leave, you can pull straight out instead of having to back up and back into something like that, or backing over someone's children, etc., etc. Instead, you can go straight out and be gone. So basically, if something feels unusual or doesn't make sense, make sure you pay closer attention. Now, I want to talk about dash cams. Why dash cams or forward-facing cameras can help. If you follow any of my videos, I'm going to be preaching on forward-facing cameras. Because if you don't have one, you need to get one, folks. I can't say it enough. You need to get one. Because I'm going to say right now, something is going to happen to somebody in the audience one of these days. Maybe not everybody, but somebody watching is going to be a victim of something to where the only way out of the situation is video evidence. So why can a forward-facing camera help? Number one, video evidence can clarify what happened. You don't have to worry about, I hope he believes me. I hope he believes me. I hope the police will take my side of the story. It's hard to tell. Folks, get a camera. It also helps with insurance claims, because at the end of the event, once the event is wrapped up by the police and you go home, they call your insurance company for a claim, and your insurance carrier wants your side of the story. They're going to want proof. And if it's a he says, she said, they're going to have no choice but to pay the claim, and it's going to ding your insurance record. Whereas if you have video evidence, they can close that case real quick and tell the other guy to go pound sand. And then also, it helps to protect you against any false claims. It also helps to protect you against false statements. Whether you show it to law enforcement, you show it to your insurance company, or you have to go to court and show it to a judge or a jury or anyone else who's an officer of the court. You want to be able to prove your case to anybody within any legal setting. While a camera will not prevent a crash, it can help protect you afterwards. So get a camera if you don't have one. And like I said, make sure you get the one with the removable SD card. Because I mentioned in a previous video about the collision where someone had one that did not have a removable card. The impact of the collision damaged the camera and the evidence was long gone. With a removable card, at least you can recover the SIM card as long as that's not damaged, which usually it's going to take a lot more to damage those than the camera itself, and you should be able to put that in a laptop and be able to recover the evidence. What are some defensive driving habits that can prevent you from becoming a target? So tying this back to the 5 videos on defensive driving, What you want to do is look far ahead, and that's by spotting unusual braking earlier. You want to stay aware of your surroundings, notice suspicious behavior with other vehicles. You also want to keep your vision active by catching movement around you that looks suspicious. You also want to maintain your space and options by prevention of being forced into a bad situation that you don't want to be involved in. And you also want to communicate your intentions to reduce any misunderstanding. And what I mean by communicating your intentions, using the turn signal when it needs to be used, using your brake pedal when it needs to be used so your brake lights can alert of what you are doing. Don't communicate your intentions by waving people on, like I said earlier. You can use your hand motions to let people know of where you're going to go. So for instance, you're at a right turn at an intersection where it's real tight and somebody's in a position where you can't make the right turn. You may want to, point that way to indicate I'm turning right. You don't want to, you can come on out. No, let the person know where you are going so that way that person knows where you are going. So that is acceptable to let people know, hey, I'm turning right or I'm turning left or I'm going that way, as opposed to go on, you can go. So I'll throw that one out there for you to make sure everything is all cleared up and to make sure you're giving adequate communication. So basically, the same habits that prevent crashes can also help protect you from scams. So what would you do if you think you've been targeted? Number one, you need to stay calm. Number two, pull over safely if you're involved. Number three, call the police and request a report. I know sometimes they don't want to show up if it's a minor fender bender. Make every attempt possible to get the police out there. Make sure you document everything. Take photos of everything, video, take your phone out and video record your interaction with the other person. And if somebody objects to being video recorded for these interactions, here's the thing. You actually have a legal right to video record in public. As the courts have ruled over the years, there is no expectation of privacy in public. So everybody is subject to being video recorded anywhere in public. So don't let anyone try to bamboozle you into thinking that you cannot record them while in public. If you're involved in a collision, that interaction needs to be video recorded. Make sure you get their license plates, or tags as most people call it. Make sure you have photos of their registration. And also, if there are any witnesses nearby, make sure you get witnesses. Get their statement, get it on video, get their names and addresses. And then also make sure you notify your insurance, put them on notice, so that way they're prepared in case somebody wants to make a claim against you. And also avoid arguing along the roadside. If you're trying to get certain information and they don't want to provide it, that's why you video record the interaction. That way you have solid proof that you made attempt. That way if you have to go to court, it's documented that you made due effort to get their information. They refuse, they want to argue. Then the courts can sort that out. And usually in those situations, it's not going to look good in their favor if they're doing stuff like that. Some things you never want to do is never admit fault immediately. Never admit fault. Also, like I said previously, avoid arguing along the roadside. Avoid accepting private cash offers on the spot. You don't know what the damage is going to be worth. You can get somebody that rear-ended you, minor collision, you have damage to your bumper, and they say you can get this bumper replaced for $800. Here's the website, I can show it to you, blah, 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 because you don't know if that's going to be accurate or not. You could take someone's word for that, then come find out that's not an accurate price, because maybe it's a fraudulent website he showed you. Maybe the parts are not legitimate. They might be trashy aftermarket parts. And if you're leasing the vehicle, replacing OEM parts with aftermarket parts is not going to fly when it's time to surrender the vehicle at the end of their lease. Or here's another scenario. Let's say it is $800 to replace that bumper that the other guy damaged, gives you $800 cash. You go to that collision repair shop. Maybe it is a reputable one. Maybe that is the legitimate price for your particular vehicle. The technician takes the bumper off, and lo and behold, there's more damage underneath. and it's going to cost another $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, or whatever the price is. Guess what? You took that $800. Technically, the courts can see that, and same with the insurance company, they can see that as a legal settlement. Now, whether that's going to be a guaranteed legal settlement or not in every case, that's going to vary from situation to situation. But that can be argued, and that probably will not look good in your favor. So don't accept cash offers on the spot like that. And don't leave the scene without documenting the incident. So basically, what you want to do is stay alert, trust your observations, give yourself space, and document everything if you are involved in any sort of collision. The best protection against collision scam is awareness. The more alert and prepared you are, the harder you are to take advantage of it. And that's what we want. Now, I understand most drivers never expect to be part of these staged collisions, but awareness makes all the difference in the world. So stay observant, stay calm, and always give yourself time and space to respond. And make sure you keep that dash cam rolling up on the windshield. Even if you have to get an old phone and duct tape it to the windshield, like I mentioned previously, get yourself a camera and make sure it is always rolling. So I hope this was informative enough to be alert of such collisions, that hopefully you're not involved in one, and if you are prepared. So be safe out there. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share these videos, and we'll see you on the next video. Take care.